How can smart developers save thousands of pounds? This is what we'll be exploring in today's podcast episode. Welcome to Property Developers Playbook. I'm Jonathan Stobbs.
And I'm Kieran Shepherd.
This is the podcast where we talk about the business of property developments. Whether you are just getting started or looking to scale into bigger projects, this podcast is for you.
Yeah, so if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're joining us again, welcome back. And so whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, please subscribe, click below, and share with anybody else who's interested in property development. Yeah. So, in today's episode, we're talking about cost engineering or value engineering. So,
which is better, cost or value? I suppose it's a bit of both. It's a yin and yang.
It's a bit of both. Yeah. I think they are. You need both. You need both, and they are slightly different, which we'll talk about. Obviously, cost is cost, but value, there is more to it than just the pound notes.
Yeah.
So, we'll look into both. So basically, how developers can protect profit. Challenge the specifications and avoid over-engineering projects without compromising quality. So that's really important.
Yeah. We've all seen projects where costs overrun. They've increased simply just because of the specification that's been told by consultants. And this is what we're looking to dive into later on today's podcast episode. But before that, we've got the big question of the week.
The big question.
Over to Faith.
Faith.
What percentage of construction projects in the UK are completed on budget?
So what percentage of construction projects are completed on budget in the UK? That was roughly the same thing.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah, I think you're going first.
Am I going first?
Yeah.
I've got to guess first. So what percentage of construction projects are completed on budget? So this is just budget. This is just cost. This isn't about time. I think it's quite low. I think it's...
You think it's low?
Well, but also budget is the client's budget. Or whether that's the end figure that's agreed. So, but I'm going to base it on the client starting budget, and I think it's like 20%.
Okay. Well, I've got a big range to go from. Yeah. I actually was thinking 50%.
Oh yeah. You get 21.
Actually, so last time I guessed lower, and I said 50% first, and I was right. So I'm sticking with my 50. I'm not changing my answer. Over to you, Faith.
It's around 62%.
62%.
That's not bad, actually.
Oh, I should have given more credit to the construction industry.
62%. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's above average, isn't it?
Yeah. So ultimately, we all want to build on budget, and this is a way that we can try and help developers who are just starting out, or like say looking to scale into bigger projects, just to be able to fine tune. Cost engineer, but while adding value as well. So what is cost or value engineering? So there's certain things that's not, and that's the main thing, is it's not cutting corners.
No, definitely not. No, it's I think that's the thing. If you look at what cost engineering is, we're talking about pound notes, we're talking about the actual cost of things, and there's quite a few ways to do that, but like we said, the key is not to cut corners. You have a very much design specification, you've got building regs, you've got health and safety. There's lots of factors that you have to be fixed to, and you have to produce. And I think that's the thing. It's not about cutting corners, and it's not about doing it cheaply. No. That's not the point here. So cost engineering is about those managing the costs, buying right. And I think it is what you spend. It's making sure you're. So the key thing here is when you're budgeting, that might be quite early on in the sort of process, and you're putting design together. You've done the
viability and all that sort of stuff.
You've done viability, and you're putting figures, and a lot of people work on square footage or square meterage rates.
Yeah.
So you've got a rough idea, and then you're starting to produce the sort of finalised construction plans and the building regs and things, and that's when you start talking about choices, material choices, and things that are going to cost more on the ground than you've maybe first expected or you first budgeted. So That's what we're talking about when we're talking about cost engineering.
I think that's also where we've spoken previously on other podcasts about economies of scale.
Yes.
So although we don't typically just do one house, we look to do multiple developments like our office to resi for 9 apartments. We've got more economies of scale. We can squeeze those costs a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And it's how you buy, effectively that's what we're talking about. It's the cost on the day, and it's buying right, set into a budget. It's not about squeezing your suppliers or your subcontractors. No. It's also, forecasting the market, understanding that there's fluctuations like we've seen with fuel. That's a big one at the minute. So again, it's about understanding your contracts, making sure that you've got provisions in there. From the developer side, you might want to look to share some of these costs with your main contractor, so that you both share that hit. But there's various things in terms of direct cost.
So all of the costs that we're looking at would have been specified by someone somewhere in the development appraisal or development process, the design process. You've got all your consultants, architects, structural engineers, civil engineers, everyone that's been specifying how the development's going to be built, and then this is working with the main contractor to actually get the project built out. So all of the consultants that you employ typically have a different mindset to a developer. The developer mindset is all about making sure that we're building for profit. Going back to the 3 Ps, it's people, places, and profit. We're not in a non-profit organisation. We're not doing this for charity. It is to as a business to make money from it.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure that the specifications they have put in aren't going to kill your budget from what you'd originally allowed to when you're actually on site. And it's just how you can manage that effectively.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these consultants, specialists will use robust details. They'll use things that they know work. So usually that's the big names in the industry that they'll use. I mean, if we take insulation, for instance, a lot of architects will specify Kingspan, which is one of the most expensive products in the insulation world. And they'll be looking to use that because it delivers the best U values, and that might not be needed. They might be within the sort of brackets, the parameters that you can not get away with, but get away with essentially. That where you might be able to lose a bit of U value by using a different product. That's what you need to be looking into. You need to be looking at the specification, asking the questions like, do we have to use these products? And also talk to suppliers, because suppliers know this. They've been dealing with this for a long time. They've been dealing with other, main contractors and developers for a long time, and they understand what can be replaced out for other materials. So brand names are quite big in that what I find from a main contracting point of view is a lot of these, like gypsum, for instance, Gyprock, they produce a lot of robust details, a lot of spec, so it's easy for...
That's what I was going to hear. Yeah, it's easy for an architect just to specify something that they're not looking to shop around or anything like that. And
also the architects aren't sort of saying you have to use that. What they're saying is these are the parameters, these are the sort of values we have to meet, and it's up to you. Like, we've specified this to use, but it's up to you to prove that you can use another product within those parameters, and it still will function as it should under the SAPs or EPCs or there's very little things in sort of structural engineer, although even then we've working on a project at the moment where the structural engineer has come up with a design to achieve a certain staircase configuration, and we're like, that's a lot of work involved in that. So there's a lot of steel. We've come up with some ideas, got the structural engineer back out, obviously at a cost, but we think just to get them out for a day and redraw is going to save us some time and money. And that's another thing. That's when we're talking about value engineering, is when it starts to, we're not just talking about cost, we're talking about time. And that's another thing we'll touch on a little bit more. But in this exercise was, let's pay the structural engineer again to just reconfigure, but it's going to save us a lot of time and money down the line. So that makes sense.
Because generally architects and other consultants aren't developers themselves. It's rare to find them doing the development side of things as well. So they are just purely looking to tick a box, reduce their risk, and make sure that what they're specifying is adequate to meet all the necessary standards. Yeah,
and I think certainly the principal designer, so the architect or whoever takes on that role as the principal designer, we do as a main contractor, you're responsible for that final specification and hand over a specification that is as built. So it can get a bit grey area, so you do have to work with your architect to make sure that what you are replacing things out with, they're aware of, so that information goes back to them. Or if you take on the principal designer, that you're putting that into your handover information, your health and safety files, your O&M files. So you do have to keep a log of these changes. You can't just go, swap that out, it's fine. It has to be documented. Building control needs to know about it. It needs to be seen and inspected, and
I imagine warranty providers need it as well.
Warranty providers exactly the same. So you can't just go around swapping things out. And also, let's take insulation, good example, because you can't just swap, say, a 50mm Kingspan with a 50mm Celotex. They're different U values, there's different thicknesses. So that's why architects like Kingspan, because you get a better U value for the thickness, so you can get a lot thinner. But you might actually just say, well, how about we, I don't know, use a leveling compound, and can we use this Celotex? It only has 20mm, but we can do this with the thresholds of the doors and this and that, and it works. And they might be like, that's fine, whatever works for you guys. And it's always good to have that sort of conversation. If you're having full construction plans drawn up, have that as a consultation with your consultants before those drawings. You don't want those finalised drawings to have the wrong information, because then it can be costly to revise those drawings. So typically we'll do that after building reg drawings. Then we'll have those. Typically we'll build off of those drawings and we'll produce our own as built from those conversations. But I think for our viewers and people in starting out property development, I think it's key to do it after building reg stage, or the building reg drawing stage, and before full construction drawings are issued. Because
developers need to manage a whole range of things. It's not just about the cost. It's going to affect the end value. It's going to affect your financing, how much financing you can get, the buildability and the program, etc. The more the specifications and detailing that they put into it. This comes back to what we spoke about in episode 13, which was about the golden triangle: time, cost and quality. It's something that you need to try and ideally work out a mix of the three, again coming down to what your product that you're looking to build and your end market as well.
And I think the quality is a funny one, because we're not trying to lose quality of build or quality of product. I mean, there's things to keep an eye on. Is when I say we're not going for the big names, we are still going for named products that have the right warranties and guarantees. Don't be nothing against China, but don't go just trying to find anything from China or wherever that's they're promising the world and it's not there. You need things that can be warranted and that have been tried and tested. So I think what we're talking about here is the parameters of quality. We don't need, some projects do, but we're not looking for top end, and we're not looking for the bottom or just scraping over that line. We're trying to find something that's within the parameters, but maybe is not quite where the structural engineer, well, the architects or other consultants are. So it's just bringing it down. It's just bringing it down to that area of the sweet spot, really, of where it makes sense. Which is
ultimately going to come back to what's your end product. If you're doing a super high-end passive house, etc., then you are going to go high specification. High detailing, etc.
And typically there, I mean, as a developer being the client, you might then look at working, because products are expensive and you're going to be looking at sourcing, it takes some time to source those products, and working with some real specialists. So you might want to look at maybe a cost plus contract, so that you can control those costs and you know what the contractor's plus is, maybe 5 to 12%, usually around 10 typically, depending on the size and scale of the project. But so it's about cost control. And another thing is, like we said, time is a big one. That's when I think you go into value engineering, a bit of the time and quality. So for us as a developer, the key thing here is timing, and we need to deliver. That construction is all about timing. We want to deliver, and typically as a developer client, you may have some LDs, liquidated damages, in your contract for your main contractor. I don't love them. They're contractor's worst enemy. But I think you can almost be a little bit flexible with it. But what a contractor might say is, look, if we use this product, it might cost us a bit more now, but it's going to save us some time. And that means that they won't be paying their LDs. And on larger projects, that can be thousands of pounds a week. So, you might go in as a developer to your main contractor and say, I want to save some money on using this product. And the contractor might just say, listen, we've agreed this in the contract. We're going to go with this product because it's readily available. We haven't got to wait 4 to 6 weeks for that other product. we're going to use this because it means we're going to save on this, but we're happy to give you that discount. And that's why really you need to get all this sorted out before you go into contract with your main contractor, because they're gonna want to save time. They're not really focused on saving you money. So as a client developer, you've got to really think again, you want to save time and cost, and you want the best quality. You want all three. So you've got to work with that main contractor and understand where that sweet spot is. You've got to find it.
So one of the most important skills as a developer is being able to look at whatever the consultants give to you in drawing, specification, etc., and being able to ask questions and really challenge those. Like you've said with the structural engineer, they presented some drawings. We've gone actually that's not really efficient in the build process. You've done it before where architects have given you a plan. You go, well, that's not easily to build. It should be designed this way. Yeah. And it's being able to identify that, and obviously you've got loads of experience to be able to do that. So it's just, if you're not 100% sure, speak to people who've got some experience, come and chat to us. We're more than happy to help. But you've got to be able to have the confidence to be able to ask those kind of questions, because many developers have the problems of just following the spec blindly, that they don't know exactly what they're doing. They just think everything's perfect and just crack on, and that can lead to massive cost overruns.
Yeah, and I think also having your main contractor in early doors. I mean, I know if it's your first development, you might not have that relationship with your main contractor, but try and find someone that can advise, and that you maybe pay as a consultant that is a main contractor that has that experience. Maybe 10 plus years of working in the similar type projects, that can review things and just say, can we tweak this? Maybe I wouldn't build it like that, or just little things that they'll pick up on, because ultimately they are the people that are going to be building it. So, and there are, I know there's a risk in that. There are people, certainly builders, who will take shortcuts, who will try and make things easier for them to make more money. But that's why, again, it's all about relationships and people, and making sure that you try and find someone that you can trust and rely on, who's going to give good advice. And also picking an architect that is quite pragmatic, quite, open to those conversations and thinking about things a little bit differently. I think that's important as well.
So there are obviously a number of consultants that are involved in the design process. So we've got architects, structural engineers, M&E consultants, planning consultants, highway engineers, acoustic consultants, and fire consultants as well. There's a lot. That goes into just a simple design. I'll say simple design loosely into a design of a development project. Ultimately, they're going to specify what they need to. You as a developer need to be able to question those, because ultimately you're carrying the financial risk of the development.
Yeah, and like we say, they're all going to spec, I would say, just above midway. I don't think they're all going to go to the highest.
I've seen bells and whistles.
Yeah, I've seen you do see bells and whistles, and some of them will go all the way. But ultimately, it's about saying, what are my options? Where can I get to? And you may pay a bit for that time at the start, but it's going to save you money in the long run.
And it's also education. If this is your first one, you need to be asking those type of questions from the different consultants to build up your own knowledge. Things that will help you on the next project. You'll be able to go well, we did this on the previous one. Can we not do the same? Or you learn something along the way, basically. So some questions that developers should ask is this necessary? Is it hitting a building regs requirement? Is there a warranty requirement to that effect? I know building regs have changed 2 years ago, Part L, so that's kind of changed a few things. The U values that you're talking about before, having to meet certain requirements on that, or simply just preference from the architect or consultant's point of view. Ask why, ask if there's an alternative, like you said before, and ask whether the end buyer is actually going to value that specification.
I had a little story time. I had a project where we built a small development of 4 or 5 bedroom houses, lovely little development, and we'd agreed a package with the renderers, the plasterers, who were doing some K-rend on the externals, and I'd negotiated quite hard to get that price down, because it was very straightforward for them. It was a pumped mix. It was in the summer, so there was very little sort of factors that could cause them headaches or delays or anything like that. So I negotiated a really good price, and we were talking about an 18mm spec. So they'd been given the specification for the fixed render, And then this was actually just COVID time. So warranty providers, warranty surveyors and building control surveyors were doing it over Zoom. So I'd taken that as I need a lot more eyes on. I'm the only sort of professional there on site overseeing this and making sure that everything was done correctly and looked at, really with a lot of intent, making sure that we were getting it right. And one of the things I thought, well, I don't know why, but I just looked at these render beads, and this is my experience. I thought, well, they look a little bit mean. They just look a bit thin. They were a little bit flimsier than the 18 mil I was expecting, and they were 15 mil. And then it didn't really sort of bother me at first until then the gaffer of the rendering company sort of came over, and it looked a bit sheepish. So I started asking him a bit more about this. And he said, oh, yeah, no, it's just, the suppliers for the 18 mil had run out, so we've gone for the 15. It's fine. It's no worry, nothing. And there is a big worry there. That 3 mil is a huge difference. There is, for the warranty provider, for the building control, that is a no pass. That is literally, they'll make you strip that off and redo. So that 3 mil makes an incredible difference. I mean, when you look at it like that, when we say 18 mil finish, that's a 20 taken back to 18 or a 15 taken back to 13 when they rub it back. So basically there was a big difference in those two, and they were trying to pull a fast one. Maybe they couldn't get the 18 mil quick enough, but I'd rather they came to me and said there's going to be a waiting time. They were trying to pass it off and get, that's a lot of product they're saving there, but not putting that extra 3 to 5 mil on the wall. So I think it's important that you've got those eyes on, checking things, making sure everything's done right, because I've known warranty companies to come in, drill a little hole, test the thicknesses of things, and then say, strip it off, redo it. Especially in nowadays when cladding and render and finishes are hot topics. So so making sure that the spec is right and what you've agreed is what you're getting. You don't have to be mean about it. It doesn't have to be a horrible conversation. It's quite simply, I said to the guy, that's fine, get it all sent back and let's get some 18 mil, or 20 mil taken back to 18 mil bead, come back in, and it's all good. Let's carry on. So, but people will try it on, just to save a few pennies. But the spec cannot be compromised. You have to get that spec because it'll only cost you more down the line.
Yeah. So another question you can ask is, are there any kind of alternatives? So one of the stories that I've got is we were doing an office to resi conversion, and the M&E consultants had decided to put a water storage tank under the ground. It was huge, and the purpose was, if there was ever a water cutout or something like that, that the flat owners would still have water. And we were like, well, is it absolutely necessary? If there's a water cut off, it's going to affect the whole street. Why are we doing it just for our flat owners? Oh, well, everyone wants water. I was like, absolutely, but that's the council's problem. And when we went through the cost exercise of this, it was going to cost like 125 grand, and these apartments were small, which was going to be 125 grand for the smallest one. So I was like, well, we might as well not do that apartment, or we just don't do this. And was there an alternative? We didn't need to do this. This was them just trying to provide for the unnecessary circumstance of what if scenario. We see that quite a bit. Sometimes I think what I call over engineer or over designing, and I think that's where people want to give value for their role in the whole thing. And you do see that quite a bit. These consultants are over designing, and challenge it if it's something out of the ordinary. At the risk of looking stupid, I don't think you do. I think you should challenge everything you're unsure of, anything that doesn't, or even question it, get people to explain it. Sometimes that's easier if you're a bit new to it, isn't it? Because you can come from the point of view that, I'm new, I don't know, can you explain? And then if it doesn't add up, just say, well, why are we doing that? Why are we doing it then? If it doesn't make sense, why are we doing it? So some of the other examples that we've got is, like you said before, about structural engineer. This is on our soul test development for 9 apartments. They've come and designed something for staircase. You were fiddling around with the different staircase designs and actually came up with a better route and design of it.
Better configuration, definitely.
The architects on the site had also spoken about screeding the ground floor of the block of apartments, just to give us some insulation. But our concern was that screed would need a level of time for drying out before we could carry on. And so we were just looking for alternatives, and we went with a Celotex.
So we've got basically a Celotex floating floor instead. It actually gives you just as good, if not better, insulation levels because you've got thickness in a much thicker insulated floor, and it's a lot quicker. So it's
we're
time
able
saving.
to crack on when so
Yeah.
that made a huge difference.
Definitely.
Drainage is another one. Civil engineers will always design the drainage typically, and on the woodland side that we looked at, the original drainage idea for the foul water was to go out the site across a listed building, across a listed bridge and into the main sewer. And we're like, well, that's never going to happen.
No.
Closing a listed bridge to dig it up, and whereas we had other alternatives, which was coming across a river into the mains, or we looked at not attenuation tanks. It's the septic tanks.
Yes, package treatment
plant. That's what I'm trying to look for. Yeah, so again, that they came with a design, and we were like, that's never going to work. And it's just being able to look at that and just ask those kind of questions of, well, how's it going to work effectively and cost effectively?
Yeah.
Windows and doors. I know people like aluminium these days, I suppose, depending where you are, but it doesn't always have to be aluminium. UPVC still works well.
Yeah.
I know you have done previous developments where you've done UPVC windows, but then if it's double doors, you've done aluminium double doors.
I just prefer them for function. Certainly with the sort of bifolds and it's the bifolds and the patio doors that I like to have as aluminium, because I just think they function better.
Yeah.
And you pay a little bit more for it, but then you get a better warranty, and they just function better. Less sort of the aftercare that is not needed so much, but I think that's an important point there, really. Like this, you're a professional developer. You can't imprint your wants and likes into this. You've got to really restrain yourself, and it's difficult.
It is difficult.
It is hard, but you've got to. I think this is what I do as a job. I have done, because I'm forever sort of saying to the client, let's just pull it back. This is the budget. This is where we are on budget. Yeah. This is what we can do for the budget. And then the client's like, "But I want this." It's like, that's fine, as long as you're willing to pay for it. So as us as clients and developers, I'm quite strict with what we do. I bring it back in. We'd have loved to have aluminium windows on our development in Salt Ash, but the figures aren't there. We can't have aluminium, so there's nothing wrong with UPVC.
The market doesn't dictate it, the value of the apartments.
Exactly, So, and then we looked at UPVC and even thought, it'd be nice to have some colour on those, some anthracite, everyone's going for this. And it adds cost. We don't need that cost. It's quite fine to have white UPVC. There's nothing wrong with it. So be careful with the trends and, any of those sort of little fancies and things you might like to add into the project. If they're not necessary, or they're not going to add value, and when I say value, like in terms of monetary, but also if they're not going to add appeal or sales appeal, then don't even consider it. Sometimes there's certain things where, certainly when the values start going up, cladding is a great one, because down here we have a very quite natural palette of materials when we're talking, when we sort of our external skins, stone, some brick, but stone, timber cladding, sort of natural cladding, slate roofs and things like that, and that can be quite an expensive palette to finish with, but it's what the planning department like, it's what architects like to design. One of the key things for us as developers and our warranty is we don't want problems coming back later. So or we don't, what we're going to do is upsell the maintenance, not maintenance free, but a lower maintenance for the externals. I think when people are spending maybe over $500,000 on a property, they care more about the maintenance of it, or maybe the older generation is caring more about the maintenance of property. So if you can add value and put products in that are going to keep that maintenance level down, then that's a good thing to review and maybe tweak. We prefer maybe like a man-made sort of cladded product versus a natural product in some instances, because it's a lot less maintenance. It stays the same 10 years later as the day you put it in. So, and that's an upsell. You can sell that to the buyers. You can sort of say, look, this is not maintenance free, but it's a very low maintenance. You clean it when you clean your windows, sort of thing. It's done. That's it. People seem to like that. So,
definitely. When you're talking to architects, let's say you've got a plot of land and you're designing houses, etc., don't give your architects a blank check canvas to go off and do whatever they want. Give them a set of requirements, a specification of what you think is going to work well on the sites. We've seen it before where a client's gone to an architect, they've bought a property, they want an extension or something. The architects come back with this very elaborate design, which has just basically blown their build budgets completely. And actually what they should have done is said, we've got this house, do we knock it down or how can we improve it? And actually knocking it down would probably have been a better way of doing it. And the amount of money that they spent on that architect is eye-watering for something that they can't now go and build because it's just not practical.
It's just not practical. And I think my advice would be to anybody looking to build their own home or extend their own home, or even if you're doing this professionally as a developer, the first person you should be speaking to is a builder, main contractor. I think that's why this works, because we will look at a deal early doors from both sides, from the monetary side and the build side, and make that work. And I think a builder will be able to tell you where the efficiencies are, where if you just move that building slightly this way, you're going to save this amount of cut earth, take away and strip out, or this. There are so many factors that they'll consider from the start that maybe the architects won't. So I would always consult with a builder main contractor first. I don't know why people don't more though. I wonder whether there's still that sort of stigmatism of they're going to rip us off, or if they know too much.
I think there's a stigma, but it goes back to what we would ideally want, is where it's negotiated tenders. It's a much more we are in this together, rather than you versus me type thing. As a developer, you've got a budget. You want to make sure that you can get whatever you're building built in that budget, and the main contractor wants to make sure that he's going to get paid and gets the job done as quickly as possible.
I guess there's a risk from the client developer point of view that they're going to bring that spec right down so they earn more money and deliver it. But ultimately they're going to deliver a product. So. As long
as that product meets the design,
that's right,
and the requirements, and you're going to get checked whatever you're doing. You got the building control check, you got the warranty check, you got the bank's monitoring surveyor check. So they all going to be checking what the builder is doing. So I suppose clients need to take that more into consideration, I think. Maybe it's a lot easier with development than with retail clients.
I was just trying to think of the both and see. I do think there is, but then I think it's different on the scale. I think if you're talking maybe £0 to £100,000 projects, they're very different. The trust levels are very different to maybe up in the millions when you're more dealing with main contractors. And so I think maybe there is a bit of a difference there. I think if you're talking to main contractors as a developer, just be open. Just talk openly, as in an office, but
ask questions,
closed room, but ask questions, talk about values, because I think you can. I don't think you've got any concern that that's what they're used to doing. That's how they
everything's
work.
Contractual anyway. You're going to have JCT. You're going to have everyone, the banks checking everything. So it's better that you're working together for the same outcome than not, ultimately.
Exactly that. And as we've said, this is business, and in previous podcasts we've mentioned about how you have the sort of project cost for the main contractor, project cost, the H&P, so overheads and profit on that cost, and really prelim cost to run that project. So they're very set percentages, and that's, I suppose, your negotiating point. But the main contractor will say, I need this amount to deliver this within that time. That's why it's that, and but that's it. Once you've negotiated that, it's what I look at open book and discuss what that project's going to cost. So, and you can work your way back. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
So when it comes to specification, the biggest thing is this going to increase the values, or is it going to help you sell those products, the houses, quicker and get the maximum value? And so there are certain things that you can spend more money on, and we'll dive into those but shortly. So the other thing is any change that you make is going to have a domino effect on all the other consultants. And I think that's a big thing. So it needs to be, as Kieran was saying, you need to discuss this in the design stage before you get onto site. Tackle
it early enough. One of the other things we've been looking at project that's in our pipeline is EWI. We've looked at it on a couple of projects, but one in particular, I quite like the building as it is. Yeah. I think you're not too.
I'm not fussed.
You're not too fussed.
No.
I quite like the building. The exterior. It's a concrete, fake brick looking building, or fake stone sort of looking building. And I don't mind it. I think it's fine. But there's an argument that if we put the insulation on the external, the space we'll save internally is pound per square foot makes a difference for the end.
Yeah.
Sales values. That's the architect's argument, which is a very good architect and makes a very good argument. They do think about the end game. They're one of the few that do.
We've worked with them a couple of times, so that they've kind of come around.
So we don't just dismiss that and go, "Oh, you're just the architect." They actually do consider it and do some calculations. So they're quite wise to this. Which we like. We like that. It's a really really good conversation to have, and it's really progressive. So, but I'm still not sure, and this is where we're going through. So the architects produced some visuals to show what it could look like, given some options. They think it's a good route forward. They think it will make the building look better, but they also think the amount of space it will save internally will make a difference. So this is a conversion project, obviously, and it's about maximising that space internally to give more floor space, pound per square foot. So these are the sort of things you've got to go through and tackle early doors. Yeah.
Ultimately, you're always balancing those three things: time, cost, and quality.
Yeah.
Don't become a cheap developer. Don't focus on just cheap products. Your reputation is important. If you're looking to do this long term and deliver a product that you get known for, you don't want to be known for those kind of cheap products.
I think the thing is it's all about specification. And I think as long as you're within those parameters of specification, like we said a minute ago, I think any product you can buy on the shelf, certainly in the UK and probably places like America, Australia, places like that, anything you can buy off the shelf, it's going to have a specification to it. It just needs to be within your parameters. Like, can I use that product within these parameters? I think the thing is I think there's a bigger question around design and taste. And I have a design background, so and you've got a good eye, so we tend to agree on. We don't. It's not too much of a challenge to produce a good looking product at the end. But I do see some things and think, oh dear, they should have got an interior designer in at a cost, because it's just awful, And you just sort of say why. And some people will spend more money than they need to create something that really isn't appealing. And I think it's worrying that people miss that, and also that the team just let that person go ahead without actually saying what is this going to look like.
I've seen that before.
Everyone
suddenly starting adding on their own personal taste, and you're doing this to make profit. It's not for your own personal taste. You're not going to be living there.
No,
someone else might not like green walls. That they just want a blank canvas to be able to make their own.
Well, the thing is that the blank canvas is a great term, because what we see a lot of. What we used to see a lot of is the whitewash, or white. Everything was white.
Magnolia before.
Yeah, well, Magnolia. Magnolia was the early days.
I remember the Magnolia days, where Magnolia was it.
That's it. Magnolia cream carpets, or just off brown cream and all that sort of thing.
Brown kitchens.
And then it went white, and everything went white out, which is fine. It's still okay if you're furnishing, because you can, with artwork and things, you can bring it up, and white's fine because people can look at it and go, oh, we'll have an accent wall there, or we'll change the colour. But then people have gone this grey scale, and everything's grey, and it's just drab. And I think there's a real negative to that. I think you don't want to. I think you need to be careful. I think look at things, just from a material palette. We're humans. We like natural materials. We like things. We buy with our eyes, and it just needs to be visually pleasing. But I think consult architects, but interior designers. Ask them, they're going to deal with the external palette for planning and that side of things, but have a look around and see. Also, have a look through the estate agents, the paper online, and see what other people in the area, similar value comparables of property, how they're designing the internal spaces. More than modern ones, but see what the trends are in that area, because you might be surprised they might not be what you want. It might be. The consumer might be someone more localised that wants a certain look. They might prefer more of like a natural timber looking worktop than a marble worktop, or a sort of modern look. Or give options. That's another thing. I hate options. I hate giving the end user in development too many options. But I think kitchens and bathrooms and floor finishes, it can be one. Even final paint colour.
Yeah, I think this is where we're jumping on to the next part, is where should you spend money?
Yeah.
We've spoken about before, if you're going to be spending money on certain things, on designs and looks and feels, it's ideally for every pound you spend, you make £3 back in value.
Yeah.
So there are certain areas that you want to kind of focus more on, which, like as you're saying, kitchens, bathrooms. Yeah,
and I think depending on the sales figures that you're looking for in the per unit, will depend on what product you're able to offer a choice within. So again, with going back to that, the 4 or 5 bedroom houses that we were doing, we allocated, I think it was about £25,000 per kitchen. Every single one of those up-spec the kitchen. So we didn't want to go, we're doing £10,000 kitchens, because they'll go, well, what can I get for 10,000 in these homes? Not a lot. So we allocated 25, but we basically gave them a choice within a range, so they could go to the same supplier and pick those things, and that was additional cost that they paid as the buyer of the property, and they paid it up front as well, so there was no lost cost to us. If they walked away from the deal, they lost that money in changing the spec because it was to their taste, and we guided them a little bit. Some of them wanted to make some quite bold decisions, and we had to sort of say, look, if you don't complete this deal, we're going to be left with something that is a little bit too personalised, so we need to bring that back a little bit, or maybe it's something they could, fancy splashbacks and different tiles. That could be done later on when we're done and they've actually bought the property. But the actual infrastructure of the kitchen, the units, worktops, cabinetry, all that sort of thing is done while we're there, and they can up-spec. The buyer can up-spec, but not down-spec. That's something I've only been asked once to remove sections of kitchen.
Okay. Interesting.
And I refused, not like point blank, I refused. I just was like, look, I tell you what, we run all our flooring underneath all the cabinetry anyway. So if you wanted to take that section of kitchen out after, that's fine. But we're doing it as built, so we can produce as built drawings, so we can say that's what you've got, it's functional. If you want to change it after, I think they just wanted a bigger dining room table. It was like a kitchen diner, and they just wanted to take out a section of the kitchen. So that was something we weren't prepared to do.
Through the design stage, there's also opportunity to look at the layout efficiencies. Again, architects generally have a feel for these things, a good feel. You could get an interior designer to help you out with that, but also, like we've done recently, is once you've got the plans, go out and actually, certainly in Office Resi makes it a lot easier, actually start laying where the floor plans are going, the walls, and there you can then start tweaking, moving walls, etc., to give a better feel for the rooms.
No, absolutely. I think, like you said, conversion projects are easier for that because you have the shell. But something I like to do, we have not a template, but I have a set sort of house plan that I like to use that makes the ground floor, because a lot of people like open plan living. So we try and push that open plan living. Also, it's cost saving because we're not putting in certain walls and switches and things like that. But what we do is we design it in a way, we work with the architect to design it in a way where walls can be dropped in to sort of separate spaces. And that's also an upsell, because sometimes when people are walking around and go, it's huge, it feels too big, open plan. So that's fine. We've actually configured it so you can put a wall here at not a lot of cost, and you can put a wall here. For us, that cost adds up because we don't want to be doing that across 10 units. A couple of walls here and there is going to be into thousands. So, but what we can say is, you can, if you don't like the space or you want to break it up down the line, you can. So it's, again, that's early design choices that impact that sales and how you sell the property. Because some people love open plan. A lot now we're moving back to actually
having
compartmentalising, breaking it up a little bit. So
they want to be able to take their food from the kitchen and go sit down in the dining room with the family and everything.
That's right. Have a bit of separation and noise and things, and just creating choice earlier on in the design stage that can the end user can do after once you've sold. So
one of the other things, especially in developments, which typically gets left to the very last, and it's understandable, it's landscaping. A lot of the budget gets swallowed up in the main build, and landscaping becomes
Yeah.
almost like the forgotten piece, but actually it's the landscaping, the curb appeal that does make a big difference for the livability, for people to come in and actually see what it could be.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at the big home builders, their landscapes are very much, 6-foot fences,
Yeah.
lawn area, and a tiny little pissy patio.
Yeah. And the lawn area typically is not lawned. They'll leave it for you to do, and they haven't even taken out all the rocks or anything.
It's got
like
maybe
that,
an inch of topsoil with a bit of seed, and it's So, but ultimately, that's that's fine. It's going to produce a bit of grass, and it's going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But it's not really selling it, and maybe that's the thing. I mean, a nice driveway for, like you say, curb appeal. People like to think, right, I can park this amount of cars. But there's other things people are now focusing on as well, like, bin access, bike stores, charger points, EV charger points and that sort of thing. Like, where does it all make sense? Can I get to where I need to? Are there paths that get me to where I need to be? What is your, what's the demographic that you're selling to? Are they older people that, are you talking about steps, or do you need to configure some slopes? So those sort of things need to be considered. And try not to use your external works or your landscape budget as a contingency for other works. Try and give something that healthy that works. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to be huge patios, but don't go too mean, because it's an upsell, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you have a nice patio area of good size that people can actually see themselves sitting with their family having a barbecue, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's.
On our bungalow site, what we did was, so we had the patio areas, but actually we did a lot of upsells for conservatories or orangeries.
Yeah.
And that was quite good. But they had to reserve to be able to make those kind of amendments.
Yeah.
And then they started paying up front as well. So again, it's a way of increasing space internally. But yeah. And
again, that's a demographic thing of that generation.
Yeah.
Bungalows, typically older people.
Yeah.
Older people love a little sunroom. Or an orangery conservatory. So it makes sense. Is knowing your market and sort of designing the scheme and each plot so that could work. And once one has it done, they'll all go, "Oh, I know what they've got done. Yeah, I'll have the same."
Yeah.
So getting the upsell there as well.
Yeah. So, in summary, cost engineering is value engineering. It's not about cutting corners. Do question the consultants about their specification, just again so you can get an understanding of how it all fits together.
Yeah.
And whether there are any other alternatives or ways of construction. Get a main contractor on your team and be able to ask them the questions like, is this the best buildability or the quickest way of being able to do it?
Yeah. I second that. I think you're spot on. So
make sure that you as a developer give architects a steer or all your consultants a steer in the direction of what you're trying to achieve. What is your end target market? What kind of housing you're looking to get. Don't just give a blank check. Make sure that you're keeping a control of, because ultimately you as the developer are the one that's going to be paying for everything and taking on that financial risk.
Yeah, and I think if you're starting out, it's worth, like we mentioned, it's worth one of your consultants, your paid people, be the main contractor or someone with main contracting experience. I think that's important. I mean, maybe your mentor, maybe us, but I think having that experience there, somebody who can consult and review things with you and work your way through, I think
makes a big difference.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
A huge difference. I think their experience, they're going to be there spotting things that you might miss and also helping you not get carried away with things, because we all do it. We can all get carried away with certain things, certainly when an architect starts.
Yeah. Oh, vaulted ceilings.
Oh, yeah. That was you, wasn't it? You wanted the vaulted ceilings. I was like, no vaulted ceilings.
No vaulted ceilings.
So you're selling a product. So, and that was a good point actually on that one, because the end buyer doesn't see those things.
They wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So although we see it and go, oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, but it's not our house. So the buyer will have never known that was a possibility. They're just going to look at it as what's delivered, and that's what's there. So, I think that's pretty much my key takeaway here is work with somebody who's a main contractor, either as a consultant, a paid consultant, or somebody you can bring in to work on your team early doors. I think that would help you cost engineer, value engineer, cost control.
Yeah.
I think it's key.
So for all our listeners, it would be great to know what's the biggest example of over-engineering or over-specification that you've seen on one of your developments. We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
We'd love to know.
Yeah, let us know. Get in touch.
So if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe, click the button below to the podcast and on our YouTube channel. Leave us a review, and yeah, we really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Till next time, and as always, learn, build and scale. I'm Jonathan Stobbs.
And I'm Kieran Shepherd.
Speak soon.
See you again.